All right. What is good, Zero X Nation? We're about to get popping here in just a moment, maybe right this moment. Just want to say thank you, everybody, to tuning in live and everybody that's listening to the recording. I'm hoping that you're getting some sort of alpha. I don't know what you're looking for necessarily, but we're going to be sharing a lot of good stuff for all the people who are still here and on chain. For this spaces, we have a couple of special guests. I got the Zero X co-founder and CEO, co-CEO Amir Bandeali. We also got Micah, who is tuning in from Messari. We're very thankful that he's here. I've pinned a tweet, folks. At the top of this spaces is a pinned tweet where you can, and I'm encouraging everybody to do this. Go ahead and tap on that tweet, and you can follow along with us as we dive into some of the insights that Micah has shared in this brief about Zero X. Well, before we get started, how you feeling today, Amir?
Good, yeah, excited to be here, and thank you everyone for joining. Looks like we got a good group today.
Yeah. And Micah, how you doing today, sir?
Feeling good, man. Quite overworked, but feeling good.
Okay, good. I'm hoping that the next 30 minutes or so is easy for you. I want to make it easy for you. Good vibes, positive vibes, and low stakes as well. We're just talking to the Zero X and Messari Nation about some stuff that we already know, but I'm sure that everybody plugging in is going to learn something new today. Mike, I want to start with you and just give some color on Zero X, and I'm sure, especially some of the developers that might be in this chat, are intimately aware of the value that we provide to the space. But give us a little history, your history as well, and some TLDR on what people need to know about Zero X before we dive in.
Yeah, I mean.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to send that to Amir. My bad, Michael. Let's get that one to Amir.
No worries.
Thank you.
It makes more. I was going to say it makes more sense for Amir to answer that, but
you were ready though, bro. You were ready. I appreciate that. Let's go, Micah. All right, sorry, Amir. Let's do it, Amir.
Yeah, so Zero X is our developer-focused product line. It's a suite of APIs that are used to facilitate swaps within your application. So most popular API is the swap API. Aggregates liquidity from over 100 different liquidity sources across 9 different EVM blockchains, and yeah, by far the most used API. Powers a lot of really major applications and wallets in this space. Coinbase Wallet, MetaMask, Robinhood Wallet, Zapper, Xerion. I think they're literally probably close to 100 integrators or so that people are familiar with. So yeah, that's kind of high level overview.
Yes, and I think for some of the folks that are developers, they know this as well. We also offer a number of different APIs that are helping power different crypto projects that you named as well. If this is if you're someone who's listening to the spaces, recording or live, and you're like, man, I know Zero X. I mean, I'm aware of the token, but I'm not necessarily sure how they're impacting the space. You're going to learn that today in a few different ways. And Micah, you want to give an intro to the nation on what you're up to?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just a researcher at Messari. I like to look at DeFi. I like to look at infrastructure protocols like oracles, DePIN, all of the above. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm just super interested in crypto and just research a lot of different things.
As I've learned to, and I've read Micah's work, and I've learned to, and I've gotten more acquainted with Micah, big brain. So I'll make sure that I'll ask him some questions about DeFi that hopefully will help your on-chain journey as well. Well, folks, before I jump into these questions, I want to remind you that we're going to give away 50 USDC to 4 listeners on this call. This might be the last time I do this for reasons I won't mention here. But if you're here, I'm glad that you're going to be part of that last batch, at least of this year. So remember, if you want to be part of that giveaway, stick around to the end of the spaces. I'll be posting a tweet for you to retweet. We'll do a little, last words, and then I'll pick the 4 winners. You got to be here when I call your name, though. I can see everybody that's in the spaces. All right, Amir, let's dive in. It's been a big year for Zero X. Also, Matcha. If you're not familiar, Matcha is a product by Zero X that benefits from all of the APIs that Zero X has live, and some that are not live as well. But let's talk about the dApp growth and the unique users, Amir. So Zero X has experienced, looking into this brief, record levels of daily application integrations. Like I'm looking at here, if that's right, 80. While overall trading volume declined this year by 33%. So we also saw an average of over 10,000 unique users per day in Q3, and our closest competitor to that was 7,600. How has 0x been able to lead in average unique users every day with this challenging market? Been a tough market for folks. Not so many folks on chain, especially compared to like 2020 or 2021. What have we been doing to make sure that apps that are using our APIs are still able to facilitate great trades and also serve their users?
Yeah, well, gist of it is builders are still building in the bear market, and I think 0x tends to attract the best of the best, right? People really rely on swaps within their applications. It tends to be one of the main ways of monetizing applications in this space. So, when they're looking for a provider, they want to work with the best. We really focus on developer experience and just making it super easy to integrate, offering really good coverage, really good pricing, and I think products take note of that, right? And we just tend to they tend to self-select and choose us, and these are the major products that are capable of attracting users in a bear market. So yeah, I think that's why we've done particularly well. I think most people are not really aware of the amount of users that we have across all of the different integrations, and that's because 0x tends to be something that's used very behind the scenes, and it's not always front and center, right? You just feel like you're interacting with Coinbase Wallet or Zapper or whatever, right? And you don't necessarily know that you're making a trade through 0x. Yeah.
So you mentioned some of these apps that are using apps that are using 0x APIs. Can you name some of them and discuss the ways that they're using these APIs? And so for folks that might be using those apps, they can be like, "Wow, I'm benefiting from 0x APIs and everything that's going on behind the scenes."
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of list them off. So I would say most applications who use 0x are using it for more or less simple swap functionality, although that functionality does tend to be a pretty core part of their application. And then they're kind of another class of integrators that need swaps at some point in their actual smart contract flow. So I'll give some examples of each. So for the basic swap use case, Matcha is that's our product. I'm sure a lot of people in this call are familiar with it. DeFi Llama, Coinbase, MetaMask, CowSwap, LiFi Socket, Zapper, Zerion, Brave Wallet. I mean, I'm missing a ton there, but those are kind of some of the bigger names that I think most people would be familiar with. And then, yeah, there are some that are kind of enabling a specific use case. So, like DYDX, for example, if you are depositing uh, a stable, or if you're depositing an asset that is not USDC into DYDX, they'll use 0x to automatically convert that into USDC before it's deposited, because that's the only asset their smart contract is capable of accepting, and that's all done in just a single seamless transaction. DeFi Saver is kind of another interesting example where they protect lenders from liquidations, and they'll kind of prematurely swap some of your assets and repay debt to protect you from being liquidated, and they'll use 0x in that flow if they need to convert some collateral into the debt asset. So yeah, it could be used in quite a variety of ways, within smart contracts or just within regular applications.
That's badass. Thank you, Amir. I'm looking at this brief right now, and folks, just to remind you, if you want to tap the pin tweet at the top of the spaces, you can also check this brief and read along with us. Mike, is this right? We've 0x has consistently maintained the lowest lowest revert rate in DeFi. That means our trades are the trades that are going through 0x for the most part are going through, and traders are experiencing, an executed trade that they wanted to make. So Amir, I'm going to ask you this one. Can you explain the strategies and technological underpinnings behind what makes 0x able to facilitate the best and lowest revert rates in DeFi?
Yeah, so there are kind of two things here. So one, we actually have a different API called the TX Relay API, which enables gasless swaps. And this is used by Matcha. It's used in some places in the Coinbase wallet. It's used by Robinhood. And for this API, we are actually submitting transactions on behalf of the user, and we're able to adjust the gas price mid transaction and stuff like that before they actually get mined. We also have MEV protection enabled, and it just ends up with a much lower revert rate. I think it's maybe like 1.5%. But the best part is that for the user, even if that trade reverts, we are actually eating the gas costs, not the user. So the user, they might see a failed trade, but it doesn't cost them anything. So that's one way we do it. I would say the other way is it's just something we actually care a lot about, right? It's part of the developer experience. The types of integrators that work with us also care about it a lot. So just the fact that we are monitoring it really regularly, and able to catch when anything is going wrong and adjust. We also have I think we'll probably talk about this later, but we have a liquidity source called RFQ, which does a really good chunk of the trading volume, and that tends to have much lower reverts as well. So yeah, I would say the gist of it is, it is something that we're definitely trying to optimize for.
So if you're an integrator that's looking to, provide massive liquidity to your users, it sounds like 0x APIs are the APIs to go to. Amir, I'm sorry to keep going on Amir right here, but I think we're opening a lot of good questions here. You're talking about liquidity, you're talking about RFQ. I think a lot of people on this call and listening to the recording are seeing RFQ on their timelines, and they might want to hear more about it. So can you give more color on RFQ and how 0x helps integrators tap into that?
Yeah, sure. So RFQ stands for request for quote. And this is a way of trading directly peer to peer with professional market makers. So, our APIs aggregate liquidity from everywhere. But the majority of the liquidity sources are some type of on-chain automated market maker. You don't quite know who's on the other end of that trade. It's kind of a pool of liquidity. But yeah, with RFQ, you are trading directly with the best, most competitive market makers, and your trade is only going to be routed to them if they are providing the best price. But typically, they are able to be much more competitive than automated market makers. So for the major trading pairs, like top five trading pairs, ETH versus stablecoins, WBTC versus stablecoins, etc. RFQ does something around 75% of all of that trading volume, which means it's beating all the other liquidity sources 75% of the time. And then for kind of more longer tail assets, it tends to be a bit less, but across the board, I think it's something around 45% of the volume. Yeah, RFQ also has, it's really beneficial for market makers, but it also has other benefits for users. So for example, trades are MEV free. With an RFQ quote, it's just what you see is what you get. There's never going to be any slippage. There's never going to be any price impact. It is literally impossible to extract any MEV from the user. They are simply trading at a fixed price. So yeah, it's a really good model for a variety of reasons, and we work with all the best market makers. It's a lot of market makers. Our routing is also, it is optimized for RFQ so they could split trades efficiently between RFQ market makers, between RFQ and automated market makers. I think there was a trade I tweeted about maybe a month ago or so where there were like 6 market makers and Uniswap involved in the trade or something like that. So yeah, you'll see some crazy things every now and then, but yeah, just means users end up getting a much better price.
Love it. So when you're using, I mean, again, if you're thinking, damn, how can I tap into this? It's not necessarily like you're going to zerox.org and doing this. It's many different integrators who are using 0x APIs that you can tap in with and benefit from getting the best executed price because they're using 0x APIs and potentially RFQ as well. Micah, you're up, baby. I want to ask you a question about RFQ. In your report, you noted that RFQ transactions have grown to dominate 0x activity on pairs where it's available, some that Amir just mentioned, rising from 29% in Q3 of 2022 to a staggering 71% in Q3 2023. So, if in your mind, what does that signal in terms of trading activity, what users want or need in this DeFi environment right now?
So, I think it's pretty impressive that RFQ transactions in general grew over that time, because you would, like, if you were to think of what the ideal trade would be for an RFQ trade, it would probably be a big volume trade, given it's someone who wants to avoid MEV. But the very fact that it more than doubled is pretty. It at least shows that everybody can benefit from RFQ, and not just the big volume traders, but anybody can benefit from not being sandwiched, not being subject to certain MEV attacks, or even they could benefit anybody could benefit from just cheaper fees, given how expensive Ethereum and everything else has been getting lately.
No doubt. I think that reminds me that I think users, especially brand new users that are trying to figure out on chain, trying to figure out mainnet, not understanding why their price quote is not the price that they're getting when they actually execute the trade, and who these sandwich attackers are and what the heck that even means. But it looks like not only users but also applications are continuing to add and integrate 0x. So despite this market downturn that we've all been in the last couple years, just like Amir said, builders have been building. The number of applications integrating 0x also grew in Q3 by 14%. What a big Q3 you've had. From your perspective, Micah, how effective have these upgrades been in retaining and engaging users? And do you think it would also help engaging new users in a potential new bear market or bull market?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the updates and tools that 0x offers that subsequently applications can integrate definitely attracts new users and keeps them. I know for me at least, like, I use Matcha, which is basically a front end that you guys at 0x helped develop. It is a DeFi aggregator, but I use that for limit orders. And if 0x didn't develop the order book API, then there'd be very few places on Ethereum to go to for reliable limit orders.
Appreciate the plug there, Micah. And allow me to plug real quick. Matcha.xyz is, like Micah said, a front end that 0x has built that benefits from many or most or all of the APIs that 0x offers. So if you're interested in benefiting from any of the APIs that we're talking about today, give it a try on Matcha. Maybe try limit order as well. Thanks, Micah. All right. Amir, let's talk about liquidity. Again, big year for liquidity. We've expanded our liquidity sources from 72 to over 100 liquidity sources if somebody's tapping into 0x APIs. How does this expansion align with 0x's vision? And also, how does our team think about adding liquidity? How do we prioritize expansion of liquidity?
Yeah, I mean, adding new liquidity sources is super, super important to, always maintain the best prices and the widest coverage of tokens out there. There might be some new token that's only trading on like random new long tail liquidity source, and if you're a user, or if you're a user of one of our integrators, you don't really want to think about that. You don't want to hunt down exactly where these tokens are, where you can find this. So we just take care of all of that for you. And really try to stay ahead of the curve and integrate all the new liquidity sources. And there are a lot, and especially when we add new blockchains, each blockchain has its own unique liquidity sources as well, and they're not the major liquidity sources across all the chains are not necessarily the same. So, maybe for example, Uniswap is dominant on one chain, but another chain it's like the number three DEX or something, because users kind of like to have their own kind of native DEX to provide liquidity on. In the long run, definitely try to support like all of them. Um, of course, we do have an engineering team, which does not have unlimited bandwidth, so sometimes that does force us to prioritize. And generally, the way we do it is we have an internal simulator which allows us to plug in a liquidity source and test its pricing benefits in a number of different scenarios. And yeah, we're essentially able to measure the benefit to our users of integrating any new liquidity source. Is it going to improve pricing for a specific trade size? Kind of what percentage of volume does this apply to? What type of user does this apply to? Is it going to increase latency of our APIs? Like things like that. We're able to get pretty scientific about it, and really prioritize the ones that are giving our users and our integrators the most value at any time.
Thank you, Amir. Appreciate that. Folks, if you're trying to tap into an ocean of liquidity, I would encourage you to use any of these apps integrating 0x that you hear about today, and especially Matcha.xyz. All right, Amir, keeping it on you. This has been a big year in DeFi in a number of ways for monetization. So I want to get some of your opinions on monetization in the DEX and DeFi space in general, but in specific. Earlier this year, I know that 0x launched paid plans in an effort to sustainably invest in building industry-leading products like we have been. And since then, we've already launched V2 of subscription plans. So let's talk about monetization and how we've been trying to make that happen and why.
Yeah. First of all, I'll just say I am excited that more businesses seem to be monetizing in kind of more traditional ways in the Web3 space now. Things can get pretty frothy in bull markets, and there are a lot of incentives and subsidies flying around. But those things tend to just die in the bear markets, and they're really unsustainable and cause they just attract users that are not really there for the product, right? They're kind of there for the incentives. Um, so we have always strayed away from that. We've never subsidized our users or anything. It's always been organic. Um, but that being said, we are a business. We employ a lot of people. We have a lot of expenses, and business does need to become self-sustaining. So monetization is a core part of that. So I think we are the first DEX API to release standardized paid plans this year. It's all self-serve pricing, super easy to onboard. There is still a free plan for anyone who's just getting started. I think that should work for most new applications coming online. You could, pretty much stay free until you start attracting a significant amount of users. And then, we have a few different plans that are kind of catered towards different types of businesses that operate at different stages. So, um, if you have a ton of users, you're a high growth company, You need the most calls, the highest rate limits, etc. There's a plan for you. If you just kind of want to you're starting to grow your user base, you need some flexibility. There's a pay-as-you-go plan that starts as low as $50. So really low barrier to entry. And yeah, it's been pretty successful overall. I think that's because we've released plans that are really tailored towards all of the customers that we work with. We got a lot of feedback from them. We kind of understand the stages that they're at and what works for them. We've even iterated on the paid plans once already due to some of the customer feedback. So yeah, I think it's in a pretty good spot, and I don't think it's too burdensome for anyone. And like I said earlier, swaps are really a core part of functionality for most of the applications that use us, and it is how they plan to monetize for the most part. So for this mission critical functionality, it makes sense to that you should be willing to pay for it as well.
My bad. Sorry, my mute button was not working. Thank you, Amir. Appreciate that. It's yeah, sustaining a business in DeFi is not easy. So it's nice to see that this is working. And folks, we also have a pinned tweet here at the top of the spaces. If you want to learn more about those plans, like Amir said, a lot of people, especially if you're a builder on this call or listen to the recording, might want to just tap in with the free plan and see how that works. It would be great for a lot of people just starting out, but also great to see the adoption by a lot of players in the space of the paid plans. Micah, I mean, I'm just curious, man. Do you have any opinions about monetization in the space, not just with 0x, but across the other different DeFi protocols that are also experimenting with this? Are you seeing users being receptive to this? Are you seeing teams, benefiting from this? Let us know.
I haven't dug too deep on it, but just from my gut feeling is that the better the products you offer, you'll be able to charge things and people aren't going to be too dissatisfied. So like one of the examples I'm thinking of is actually you guys with Matcha, with I think it's called Matcha Auto, where you guys take like 0.15% of the trade, and you offer a lot of awesome stuff. With that, like, excuse me, Michael. Sorry, something. My dog's just messing around. Michael, could you explain some of the Matcha Auto stuff right
Yeah,
now?
no
I gotta
sweat at all.
cook it.
So yes, Matcha Auto is a product that is available to any Matcha user, and it helps you benefit from stuff like Swap API, TX Relay API, and yes, you're able to again benefit from not having to deal with any of the stuff that you might be worried about with MEV, and get the best executed trade, gasless swap as well. You pay in the native token, and we're charging a 0.15 fee for that. And also, everything else on Matcha is a free swap right now. So standard swaps on Matcha are free for now. And if you want to benefit from using Matcha Auto, you can pay that fee to benefit from those things. Whereas I know some other players in the DEX space right now are charging a fee for the same liquidity that's available publicly. I mean, Mir, do you have any takes on that?
Again, I would say I just I'm happy to see it. I think it is long-term healthy for like everyone to charge a non-zero fee. Because if they're not, that just means that they are subsidizing, and they're probably not going to end up being a sustainable business. So yeah, I mean we saw a move with Uniswap as well. And I think most users tend to be willing to pay it, right? They are, especially using an aggregator like 0x or Matcha, like you are really getting a lot of value from that. You're not only are you getting better pricing, but like you're just drastically reducing your cognitive overhead and the amount of time it takes to find the best price, to find exactly which token is located on which DEX. So there is a lot of value you're getting for the small price that you're paying.
Heck yeah. Thank you, Amir.
Yeah, well, thank you too for taking over that one. But yeah, I mean the main point was before my dog started attacking the pastries I just made. The main point was that yeah, I mean if you guys offer killer products, people are going to pay for it no matter what. I think this is going to be big for wallets building like different forms of abstraction for users that really take away a lot of the nitty gritty stuff that really people in Web 2 wouldn't have to deal with, and that could end up onboarding a lot of people. So I think if you just end up making the experience a little smoother, adding some awesome features, nobody's gonna have any issues paying for it.
That's great. I appreciate that, Micah. And I hope the dog didn't get any of the pastries, at least the ones you had your eyes on. Let me ask you this, Micah. You've been deep in the numbers, man. You've been looking at not only 0x, but all of the different DeFi products that you look at. I'm wondering if there are any categories of dApps that you think could use 0x APIs in an interesting or novel way. And if there's not, that's fine, fair too. But I want to just kind of tantalize the minds and inspire some builders in the chat and anybody listening to this recording. So just to recap that, are there any categories of dApps or types of applications or use cases that you think could be an interesting use of 0x APIs?
That's a tough one, but um, I'd be interested to see something like maybe automated trading strategies. Maybe some DAO or some application that would basically just use you guys as the back end source from your liquidity source, or create trades based on your liquidity sources, and see how like user defined automated strategies would work. That's just the front end. I don't know if that's a whole sector, but that's just an application idea.
I like how you're thinking. Amir, similarly, gosh, as of this Q3, over 570 active projects integrating with 0x. And I know you have eyes on what everybody's up to, but I'm curious if you have any ideas of like what's a cool novel use case that, or it doesn't even have to be novel, just a cool, unique use case that you haven't necessarily seen played out a lot that could use 0x APIs.
Man, yeah, that's a tough one. My gut is something kind of boring, like maybe uh, FX swaps or something like that. Like feels like you could probably get a lot tighter prices on DEXs than you can on centralized exchanges these days, and there's a big opportunity for whoever could get that right. Um, but honestly, I kind of want to take a cop out answer here, which is like, what applications does it not make sense to to use swaps within? I think you'd be hard pressed to find one. Um, in crypto, tokens are kind of the center of everything, and at some point your application is probably going to interact with them. I think especially like as you kind of level up and become more mature and you do want to think about monetization, again you're probably going to be more closely actually touching tokens and moving value, and at that point it could definitely make sense to integrate swaps.
Great. Let's look at another API that we're really excited about at 0x, TX Relay. You've talked a little bit about it already today, Amir, but I want to just give some more color to any builders or anybody who might want to benefit from using an app that has TX Relay like Matcha. Who is this for? Why do we integrate it? Why are we offering it? Who's using it right now? Let's talk about TX Relay. I'm gonna pin the tweet to the spaces for anybody listening right now.
Yeah, so TX Relay is our gasless swap API. So I kind of touched on it earlier. But yeah, essentially a user, instead of signing an Ethereum transaction and paying the gas, The user is just signing a message with the parameters of the trade, and then we are taking that and submitting it to the smart contracts and covering the gas on behalf of the user. And the goal here is to just really abstract away as much complexity as possible for the user. Um, Submitting a transaction should be an easy thing, but it really isn't. Especially for newcomers in the space, they're like, okay, why do I need to, pay this gas cost in, this token that I might not even be trading? And oh, why did my, transaction get stuck? I've been waiting on it for 10 minutes and still not being mined. And, then finally your transaction gets mined and you're like, wait, I just like, lost 1% because I don't know what went wrong, but it just seems like it got a really bad price. And, it turns out some MEV bot sniped your order. And we just handle all that on behalf of the users. They don't need to think about it. Um, and in Ethereum or on EVM blockchains, most tokens use this approve functionality before you are able to make swaps. So in some cases, you might still need to call this approve function before gasless swaps are enabled. However, there are some new standards out where some tokens also allow you to do that gaslessly, and wherever that's possible, if a user has a gasless approval, then we can enable 100% gasless swaps. Like they literally would not even need a gas token in their wallet. So this is actually something I believe Coinbase does in their wallet. If you don't have gas to pay, and you are able to make a swap because the token supports gasless approvals, then they will use the TX Relay API for that. Other integrators that they use at the moment right now are Matcha. So this is what Micah was talking about with Matcha Auto, where yeah, we just really abstract away all the complexity, protect users from MEV and such. And then there is also Robinhood Wallet, which is currently focused on Polygon. I believe they support Polygon and Ethereum right now, and they're using it as their primary way of trading. And I think a lot of their users are uh, like they're probably used to trading on centralized exchanges, but probably relatively new to DeFi and DEXs. So it's kind of a perfect introduction for them, right? Like they can interact with the wallet, self custody their assets, but overall the experience is not too much different for them than it would be on a centralized exchange.
That's great. Abstracting away complexities. In other words, we are trying to make frictionless DeFi experiences for whoever's integrating with these 0x APIs, such as TX Relay. Try it on Matcha. Matcha Auto is a great way to test that, to test out what we're talking about. And if you're a builder, find out if you want to add it to your app. And we are opening um, beta access spots for TX Relay API now. So if you want to tap in with that, tap the link in the pinned tweet, the most recent one, and let us know if you want to learn more about TX Relay. What's up, Micah?
Yeah, I mean, now that I've had some time to think about novel use cases, I have a few in my head. I think I need a little more brain power than to be on the spot. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if, or at least how many of these types of applications or protocols are using it, but just I was thinking like maybe insurance protocols could also use 0x APIs, just kind of for like managing and swapping like different crypto assets as a part of their risk management strategies. And that'd even be something interesting to see something like Matcha implement some sort of insurance protocol. Uh, what was the other one? I think payment gateways as well. It'd be interesting to see like sort of e-commerce sites, I would imagine, that could use 0x for some sort of like real-time token exchanges and whatnot. So customers would be able to pay with crypto. Um, gaming's another sector. Any sort of game could integrate 0x APIs into blockchain-based games or anything for sort of in-game like trading, asset management too. I think that was kind of what I was hinting at earlier, but not necessarily fully flushed out. Was that you could build an automated kind of like portfolio management tools that rebalance portfolios across different DEXs using the 0x APIs, and something I noticed that I think Matcha sort of implemented, but I think that a bunch of other applications would benefit from would be like cross-chain interoperability solutions. So like using 0x liquidity to develop sort of like a solution for swapping assets across different chains. So I realized I gave a pretty lame answer before, so I wanted to recorrect that.
Oh, you're cooking, Micah. We appreciate it, man. Those are great answers, and I'm sure percolating some minds in the audience right now. Anything to say about cross chain and 0x, Amir?
All I'll say is we hear you. we know it's a highly demanded feature. We did launch cross-chain swaps in Matcha, and do not support that in the API yet, but we know that you want it.
We hear you, and if you're plugged into what we're doing, especially on the matcha side, when users request things, we see them and we work on them. So thank you, Amir. Appreciate that. We talked a little bit about price sensitivity and fees. Actually, before I type and get into this like last home stretch, folks, I'm giving away 50 USD to 4 folks on this call. You got to be plugged in. I see a couple people who have benefited from this giveaway before in the space. Thanks for plugging in again. You got to retweet a tweet. We're going to tweet it here in about 5 or 6 minutes. And you got to be in the space when I call your name. That's it. All right. Sorry. We talked about price sensitivity, fees, abstracting fees, abstracting bad UX. Micah, in your analysis, despite Ethereum's dominance in volume share, trading activity was dominated by Polygon and BNB, with Optimism seeing the biggest gain in volume share through 0x API. Since this report was published, we've seen even more L2s announced and launched, such as Base, who we support. What, if anything, has changed in the trend of in terms of trading activity? What are primary drivers that you think are again driving this activity on these other chains, L2s, these different types of fee environments, etc.?
Yeah, at least among L2s, I've noticed, like among L2 volumes specifically, I've noticed Base kind of work up to like 10% of the volume share. And I think ZK Sync era hitting up to 4 to 5%, which is, pretty incredible, given Arbitrum's and Optimism's continued dominance throughout the L2 space. And then even recently, you see Avalanche DeFi sort of like popping off again, and kind of like what are catalysts for this? I think it's honestly memes and shitcoins at the moment. That's like this is what seems to be driving a lot of Solana's volume, and was what's kind of making like Solana pass Ethereum in 24-hour trading volume every couple days. So this is I think you can't really underestimate the power of a good meme at the moment.
Well said, sir.
But in general, I think it's all pretty unpredictable. But yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, by the way, we're very excited that people are using L2s right now, and makes sense. And it also shows me an indication that people are, despite the fee environments, despite the lack of activity on chain, seeking out new opportunities in new places. Really cool. Sorry, Amir. Actually, no, let me send this one to Micah. How does 0x's performance and strategy in Q3 of this year position 0x in the competitive landscape of trading infrastructure, especially in comparison to platforms like 1inch and Uniswap? So let's talk about 0x and how we kind of shake out in terms of performance, strategy, what we're up to, what we're building in terms of 1inch and Uniswap.
Yeah, I mean, performance-wise, one of the most important things is just simply making sure trades go through, right? Revert rates. You went over this earlier in the spaces, but 0x has the lowest revert rates. So you guys are showing to essentially be one of the most, if not the most robust infrastructure tool for DeFi. And as for sort of like maintaining this sort of lead, because you guys source just a huge amount of liquidity, sort of maintaining this lead is an imperative thing would be to just keep building awesome products, keep building things like the transaction relay API, the order book API, and I don't think there's going to be any shortage of applications that want to integrate.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. Folks, we're about to do this giveaway. In just a moment, you're going to see a pinned tweet appear at the top of the spaces. I need you to smash that retweet. But before we do that, let's hear some final thoughts, some big ideas from both Micah and Amir. First, with Amir, we've discussed plenty of reasons why people should be potentially using 0x APIs, integrating them into their apps, or using apps that are using 0x APIs. I want to understand from you what is exciting you right now. Like when you're plugged into, daily work at 0x, what's kind of brewing behind the scenes? Of course, you don't need to say too much, but like what has been a big driver behind the reasons that we are shipping certain things in at 0x?
Well, yeah, I think what excites me is, users and volumes coming back. It seems like the the lows of the bear market at least are over, right? I think if we just kind of stay where where we are, or if the market stays where it is right now for a bit, I wouldn't be too sad about that. So yeah, happy to see activity, and where there's activity, there's more opportunity for developers as well. So we're getting more developers onboarded onto 0x, and I'm sure they're gonna be launching really high quality applications and thinking of all sorts of new use cases, and attracting their own users, and it just creates some really nice flywheels. We are focused on creating more value for developers. They're going to be more data APIs launching, internal analytics. We've had to use a lot of this stuff ourselves because we also built Matcha, right? So we understand the pain points of developers, and a lot of things that we had to build for ourselves, will also just be launched as APIs or as internal analytics for other integrators to tap into as well. For example, like trade history, or token metadata, or yeah, just tracking your own volumes and your users, and things like that. We also we saw a lot of people were using our APIs just for the sake of showing a price in their application at some point, right? They weren't necessarily trading, they just needed real-time price data. So we launched a pricing API as well. And then yeah, there are some big initiatives behind the scenes going on just to improve the core technology bottoms up, and I'm not going to say too much about that, but I'm really excited about it. There's a lot of resources going into it, and yeah, I think when it launches, it's going to be a game changer for our users as well.
Heck yeah, I'm stoked for everybody that's potentially integrating 0x APIs and already is. You're going to win too. We're happy to be your secret weapon here in DeFi APIs. Micah, oh, excuse me. Folks, now's the time. Now is the time. The pin tweet is live. Do you see this pin tweet at the top? Smash the retweet button. It looks like some of you have already wisened up to the game that we're playing here. Make sure you smash that repost button. Spread the word about Micah's brief about 0x. We appreciate it. Also, make sure you tap into it and give it a browse as well. Of course, we've been talking about it in an extended capacity here in the spaces. But yes, reshare that. And I'm going to be announcing a winner momentarily. But before we do that, Micah, I want to know, you've been deep in the numbers, bro. You've been in the weeds. You're in the thick of DeFi all the time. I wonder, as you wrote this brief for 0x, did anything surprise you? Were you surprised by anything, in covering your research on 0x?
I think we may have went over it, but I was pretty shocked at Optimism's share of trades um, during Q3. I thought that was pretty insane that the more than anything, looking at 0x data just kind of made me realize how impactful and important these layer two options are for users at the moment. So I think that was I think looking at 0x data definitely gives a good feel about the current ecosystem
Yeah,
within and around Ethereum.
that's wonderful. Let's talk about the current ecosystem, but also looking forward as we're wrapping up 2023. Based on your analysis of 0x and, of course, broader market trends, Michael, what's your outlook on DeFi next year, 2024? What technological advancements do you think will drive the next phase of innovation and usage in crypto?
I mean, just honestly, at the moment right now, just better products, things that kind of bridge fragmented liquidity. I think you guys are starting that already, especially with the Matcha interface. But yeah, I mean, better products. Hopefully, we see some integration of on-chain leverage, even just maybe better risk management tools. I think these are all things that push DeFi forward in 2024.
You heard it here, folks. I told you, when you join the spaces with 0x or Matcha, I'm going to bring the big hitters and you can learn from them. And I hope that you have so far. We're going to announce the winners in just a moment. Make sure you hit the retweet button. One last question to Amir. Bro, with the various developments and upgrades in Q3, what can users expect from 0x in the coming quarters in terms of features, user experience, market positioning, everything, vibes? What can we expect?
Just good vibes, man. Yeah, I already touched on or hinted at a lot of the things that are going to be launched, but at the end of the day, we're just customer obsessed and trying to add more value for our users. And you're just going to be able to do more with less within our APIs. I'll say that. So yeah, expect more APIs. Expect improvements in some of our core APIs, and that's ultimately going to trickle back up to your users and make them more sticky, and you'll be able to build better products.
If you are a builder in the space, if you are working with a company that is interested in getting into crypto, now is the time to be the winner in your office, in your Slack, and tell them about the 0x APIs that you just discovered today, perhaps, or have been knowing about for a minute and learned more about today. Be the person that does that in your office. I guarantee you will get at least a couple hundred emojis in the chat. All right. I'm about to pick a winner. Before I do that, I want to make sure you're following the people you need to follow. In fact, it's not necessarily Amir and Micah, although you should be definitely following those big brains. But I also want you to scroll in the chat real quick. Do you see this person, Teju, with the red rocks behind her? Follow her. Do you see Jessica Lynn with was that a parrot? Yeah, boom. Follow Jessica and Amy B, the Dow punk with the orange background and the peace sign. Why these ladies? Dude, if you're trying to get into 0x APIs, they will make sure you have the best possible experience to do that. If you're a builder, just effing around with contracts right now, don't matter. Tap in with Teju, tap in with Jessica, tap in with Amy. I guarantee you're gonna have a great experience onboarding to 0x. If you're already an integrator, you should also be following them to make the most out of the products that you're using with us. All right.